You open your eyes, but only halfway. The world hasn't started yet. The air is soft, the light uncertain, and your thoughts haven't decided who you'll be today. In this fragile moment between sleep and waking, everything is still undone. The story of the day hasn't been written, and you are the author waiting for the first word to appear. But before you speak it, there's something deeper stirring inside you, a quiet awareness that watches the thoughts trying to form, that sees the memories rushing to remind you of who you were yesterday. That voice says, "You are this. You always react this way. You always worry about that." It tries to convince you that you are fixed, predictable, already known. And yet, another awareness whispers, what if you are not that voice? What if you could start today unburdened by yesterday's story? What if, in this exact second, you could reset the world you wake into? You lie still, listening. You realize the world outside hasn't started moving because it's waiting for you. It's waiting to take shape according to the feeling you choose to begin with. Neville once said, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." So you breathe. You let that sentence sink into you like sunlight spreading through water. Every inhale becomes a doorway. Every exhale releases yesterday's identity. And as you breathe, a simple idea takes root. Maybe reality is listening to me. Not my words, but my inner tone. Not my plans, but my state. You begin to sense how every morning, before your first thought, you stand at the entrance of infinite versions of yourself. Each path already exists, the peaceful one, the successful one, the loved one, the free one, and each is activated by a single internal decision. Who do I feel myself to be right now? You've repeated the same answer for years, almost automatically, but not today. Today, you pause before answering. Today, you see the mechanism that was hidden in plain sight. Reality does not respond to effort. It responds to identity, and identity is chosen, not remembered. You whisper quietly to yourself, "Everything starts working for me today." The words are gentle, but something in the room shifts. A vibration, subtle yet undeniable. You don't need to believe it yet. You only need to let the possibility breathe inside you. The day is waiting outside your window, patient, malleable, undefined. It won't begin until you choose the version of you who will live it. So you breathe again and feel the air move through you like a reset. And in that stillness, a realization rises. You've never truly woken up before. You've only remembered who you were yesterday. But this morning is different, because now you know that waking up doesn't mean opening your eyes. It means choosing who you are before the world does it for you. And as that thought settles in your chest like quiet thunder, you sense that something extraordinary is about to begin. When you finally rise from bed, the world greets you as if it already knows you. The room, the messages on your phone, the familiar rhythm of thoughts, all seem to line up perfectly with the person you were yesterday. But today, something inside you is watching differently. You notice the pattern. You sense how life responds like a mirror, not a machine. You reach for your phone, and before you touch it, you already feel a flicker of expectation, the silent thought that says, "What if nothing changes?" And just like that, the reflection forms. The same old notifications, the same silence from the person you hope to hear from. You pause. You see it. The mirror didn't betray you. It obeyed you. For the first time, you don't react with frustration. You study it, almost scientifically. You whisper to yourself, "It's only showing me my state." That phrase lands like a small lightning bolt. Your chest tightens, not in fear, but in awakening. Everything you experience, from the smallest delay to the biggest success, isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. You walk toward the window. Outside, people move in predictable rhythms. Cars rushing, doors opening, the hum of the morning. It all feels mechanical. But then you notice, every person out there is also walking inside their own mirror, surrounded by reflections of their inner states. Someone anxious is creating chaos around them. Someone grateful is met with ease. Someone invisible to themselves remains invisible to others. And you are beginning to remember how it all works. Reality isn't solid, it's responsive, and its first loyalty is always to your self-concept. The question appears again, who am I being right now? Not what am I doing, not what am I saying, but being. You test it gently, you shift your inner tone just slightly, from worry to quiet assurance, from I hope it works out to it's already aligning. The change is microscopic, but the world immediately reacts. The sunlight shifts through the clouds, a notification arrives, not remarkable, but perfectly timed. You smile. It's working, not because of luck, but because of alignment. You whisper again, everything starts working for me today. This time it's not an affirmation, it's a recognition, a remembering of how this mirror has always functioned. For years you've tried to fix the reflection. You've shouted at it, begged it, forced it, but the mirror never argued. It simply reflected. Now, you do something radical. You smile at the reflection before it changes. You stop waiting for evidence. You generate the feeling of completion first. And for a moment you feel the subtle warmth of peace rising from your stomach to your chest. It's unfamiliar, but ancient. You sense that this is what Neville called living in the end. The inner act of assuming the wish fulfilled before the reflection has time to adjust. You take one deep breath, then another. Each inhale affirms life's cooperation. Each exhale dissolves the habit of doubt. Suddenly you realize how many years you spent reacting to mirrors instead of choosing the reflection. You were fighting your own echo. Now you understand. The outer world is not late. It's perfectly on time with your inner rhythm. As you walk through your morning, the mirror follows you. In the faces you meet, in the tone of your conversations, in the coincidences that no longer feel random, and you begin to wonder with a new kind of curiosity, if all of this responds to who I am being, then what else could I become today? You smile again, not because something happened, but because something clicked. You finally stopped asking reality to prove your worth. You started showing it what your worth feels like, and that small shift, invisible to everyone else, has already begun rewriting the entire reflection. There's a voice that starts speaking the moment you open your eyes. Sometimes it sounds like your own. Sometimes it borrows the tone of your past. But every morning, it begins the same way, whispering the script you rehearsed 1,000 times before. It says things like, you have to hurry, you're behind, you never get it right on the first try. It pretends to be helpful, but it's not your voice. It's an echo, the echo of yesterday's self trying to survive another day. You hear it now, faintly. You don't fight it, you observe it, because this time you understand something. That voice isn't describing the world, it's creating it. Every word you accept as true becomes a thread that reality uses to weave your day. Every silent sentence becomes a command, and you've been programming your entire life without realizing it. So today, you decide to speak differently, not loudly, not desperately, just consciously. You say, I am guided, and something shifts. It's subtle, but you feel it. A flicker of calm inside your chest, like your body recognizing an old frequency it had forgotten. You try another one. Everything is aligning for me, and immediately a thought appears. What if it's not? What if it's just wishful thinking? But you don't chase the doubt. You let it drift away like smoke. You've played that argument before, and it never ends well. Instead, you stay with the new sentence. You feel how it changes your breathing. You realize that faith is not noise, it's silence that doesn't collapse under pressure. The voice inside begins to slow down. You're not suppressing it, you're retraining it. You're teaching it the language of certainty. You look around the room. and notice how neutral everything becomes when you stop narrating it with fear. The unfinished tasks lose their weight. The day doesn't feel like a mountain anymore, more like an open field. You smile, just slightly, because you see the pattern now. Your inner voice isn't supposed to describe your circumstances. It's supposed to command them. Neville once wrote, "Your inner speech mirrors your imagination, and your imagination mirrors your reality." You whisper that line to yourself. It's not poetry, it's physics. So you experiment. You walk slowly, repeating in your mind, "Everything I need today finds me easily." And as you do, you feel something rearranging, not outside but inside. The tension leaves your shoulders. The future stops looking like a maze. You sense an unseen order beginning to move on your behalf. You pause at the door, hand on the handle. You can feel two worlds waiting, the one that reacts and the one that commands. You know which one used to win, but not today. Today, you walk into the mirror already knowing how it works. You understand that the first voice you listen to becomes the architect of your reality. And because of that, you choose every word carefully. Not from fear, but from power. You whisper one last time before stepping out, "Everything starts working for me today." You mean it. You don't have to force it. You just know. And as you walk into the day, something invisible begins to move around you, a new rhythm, a quiet orchestration. You can't see it yet, but you can feel it following your tone. Because the voice that once enslaved you has become your ally. It no longer tells you what's happening. It listens to you tell it what's about to. There's a strange silence that appears the moment you stop chasing. At first, it feels like loss, like the engine went quiet, like the world forgot you. But if you listen closely, beneath that stillness, something else begins to hum, a deeper rhythm. A current that was always carrying you, even when you thought you were swimming alone. You've spent years running toward what was already moving toward you. Every goal, every person, every dream. They weren't running away. They were orbiting the vibration you kept changing. Each time you doubted yourself, the orbit shifted. Each time you trusted, it came closer. Today, you finally stand still, not in defeat, in alignment, and in that stillness the chase ends, the receiving begins. You look back and realize how much energy you've spent pushing at closed doors, trying to convince life to give you what it was already trying to deliver. You didn't need more effort, you needed permission, your own permission to receive. You breathe slowly, letting that truth sink in. Receiving feels strange at first, almost uncomfortable. You've been trained to earn everything, to prove your worth before allowing ease. But worth was never the currency of creation. State is. When you assume the feeling of being chosen, of being supported, you shift from asking the universe to acknowledging it. And acknowledgement is the highest form of faith. You stand there, no visualization, no forcing, just quiet presence, and you say softly, "It's already mine." Not because you're trying to manifest, but because the sentence feels like truth now. You think of all the times you begged the world to notice you, and you smile because you finally see the paradox. The world wasn't ignoring you. It was waiting for you to notice yourself. A thought appears. What if I stop trying to make things happen and start letting them happen through me? You don't answer right away. You let the question echo through your chest like a bell, and as it rings, you begin to feel lighter. You remember Neville's words, "You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are." And suddenly it makes sense. You don't need to chase abundance. You only need to stop being the version of yourself who believes it's far away. You let go of the timeline. You stop measuring progress. You rest in the assumption that everything working for you is already in motion. And as you rest there, the air itself begins to feel alive, responsive. You sense the shift in small ways. A text arrives that opens a door. A delay turns into a perfect detour. Someone smiles at you for no reason, and it feels like a message from the universe. See, You don't need to chase. The more you relax, the more reality rearranges itself to serve you, not because you demanded it, but because you finally matched its flow. There's power in not needing proof. When you no longer grasp for signs, the signs multiply. When you no longer ask, when will it happen? Time itself begins to bend. You realize you were never manifesting objects or events. You were manifesting states of being, and those states are what summon everything else. So you smile again, quietly, knowingly. You whisper the phrase that has followed you through every chapter. Everything starts working for me today. This time, it doesn't sound like hope. It sounds like memory, as if you've always known this, and only now remembered. The stillness deepens, the current strengthens. And for the first time in your life, you stop running toward your future and feel your future running toward you. You've heard the phrase before, live in the end. It sounded beautiful, poetic even. But what did it really mean? Was it pretending? Was it delusion? Or was it something much deeper, something only the brave ever attempt? To occupy the reality of what they desire before they see it. You sit with that thought, letting it unfold. Living in the end isn't about lying to yourself. It's about remembering that imagination is the blueprint of reality, and every blueprint must be completed in mind before it becomes visible in form. You close your eyes for a moment. You don't visualize details. You don't strain to create an image. You simply feel the atmosphere of completion, that quiet satisfaction that comes after everything has worked out. You feel the ease in your body, the stillness in your thoughts, the quiet certainty that needs no proof. That feeling, that's the end. And when you dwell in it long enough, life begins to bend around it, quietly, obediently. Neville once said, "If you persist in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled, it will harden into fact." It's not a metaphor, it's law. You think about how you've lived until now, always in the middle, always becoming, never being, always waiting for a sign, a message, a reason to believe. But the end doesn't wait. The end declares itself and watches the world adjust. You imagine your wish fulfilled, not as a movie, but as a vibration. You sense what it would feel like to wake up already there, already chosen, already enough. You breathe that in, and for a moment, everything outside goes silent. Even the air seems to hold its breath, as if listening. You open your eyes, and though nothing has changed physically, the quality of everything has shifted. The world looks softer, more responsive. It feels like the difference between asking and knowing. You realize that when you live in the end, you stop seeking and start radiating. You stop asking, when will it happen? And begin saying, it has already happened in me. There's a strange power in that posture. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. You've crossed the invisible line between creation and manifestation, between hope and embodiment. You walk through the room and see familiar things, the same walls, the same furniture, but they now feel like scenery in a play you're directing. Every object, every person, every coincidence is quietly taking cues from your state of being. You smile at the simplicity of it all. You used to think manifestation required work, vision boards, rituals, techniques. But the real work was always internal, to hold the end with such consistency that the middle has no choice but to obey. And here's the secret most people never see. When you live in the end, you stop measuring time. You stop needing to know how or when. The how belongs to the echo, not the source. And you are the source. You take a deep breath. It feels fuller, freer. You realize that living in the end is not about waiting for a future. It's about becoming the future now. It's about walking through today with the emotional memory of everything already resolved. You whisper to yourself, everything starts working for me today. The words no longer reach outward. They rise from within. And in that moment, you understand something beautiful. You were never meant to chase your desires. You were meant to remember that they've been yours since the beginning. The end is not distant, it's here. And the more you live in it, the faster the world rushes to agree with you. There's a moment when the shift happens, quietly, almost imperceptibly. It's not marked by fireworks or sudden miracles. It's marked by a calm recognition. I am no longer reacting to life. I am causing it. For so long, you lived as the effect of the economy, of timing, of other people's choices. You carried the weight of circumstance on your back like it was law. But today, that weight begins to slide off because you finally see what was invisible all along. Everything around you was waiting for your decision about it. You take a breath and feel the words forming inside you. Nothing has meaning until I give it meaning. And that single realization, that quiet sentence, changes the entire architecture of your world. You no longer look at obstacles as punishments. You see them as unshaped clay, raw material responding to your assumption. When someone criticizes you, you no longer absorb it. You translate it through your new state. I am seen. I am expanding. When something delays, you don't panic. You tell yourself, this is realignment, not rejection. Everything becomes dialogue. Everything is evidence that life is listening. Neville called this thinking from the end rather than of the end. And that small preposition, from instead of, changes everything. Because when you think of something, you place it outside yourself. When you think from it, you bring it to life now. You remember the mirror again, the one you've been talking to since morning. You smile at your reflection and realize it's not just showing your face, it's showing your consciousness. And consciousness never waits. It decides. So you decide, not by willpower, but by acceptance. You accept that your inner world is the cause of all things. You accept that emotion is instruction, not reaction. You accept that the moment you feel certain, the universe reorganizes itself to obey. You begin to walk differently, slower, more deliberate. Not with hesitation, but with sovereignty. You are no longer trying to make things happen. You are observing how they obey the identity you've chosen. You whisper almost playfully, everything starts working for me today. And immediately you notice the feedback, the ease in your steps, the sense of time softening around you. It's as if reality itself is leaning closer, ready to cooperate. There's no rush, no anxiety, just rhythm, your rhythm. You think of the past and realize how reactive you used to be. One bad message could ruin your day. One small delay could steal your peace. But now, you see those moments as chances to test your mastery. Each challenge becomes a question from the universe. Will you respond as the cause or as the effect? And you answer, not with words, but with calm. Because cause doesn't need to argue. It simply knows. You begin to understand why Neville said that assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. It's not magic, it's mechanics. Reality bends to the most consistent vibration, and your consistency has become unwavering. Even when doubt whispers, you don't collapse. You just smile, because now you see doubt as evidence of progress, proof that the old state is dying and the new one is taking root. You walk through your day as both participant and creator. Every glance, every word, every thought is a seed, and you plant them carefully, lovingly. By nightfall, the world has changed in small but undeniable ways. You can feel it. The air feels more responsive, your body lighter, your inner tone certain. You have stepped out of the loop of reaction. You've remembered the truth behind all of Neville's teachings. You are the cause. The world is only the echo. And as you drift toward the evening, you smile and whisper again, not as a request, but as a command sealed with peace. Everything starts working for me today. It doesn't happen with thunder. It never does. The moment the world bends to your new state arrives quietly, almost shyly, as if it wants to see if you're really paying attention. Maybe it's a message that comes sooner than expected. Maybe it's an obstacle that dissolves without effort. Maybe it's just the way people look at you differently, a softness in their eyes, an unspoken recognition that something in you has changed. You don't celebrate loudly. You don't run to announce it. You simply smile because deep down you already knew. It's strange, isn't it? How proof feels unnecessary once it arrives. How the things you once begged for now feel like natural consequences. You realize that miracles aren't exceptions, they're reminders. They show up when you finally stop needing them to. The outside world is catching up to your decision. That's all it ever does. It echoes your assumptions with perfect precision. And today, for the first time, the echo sounds beautiful. You walk through your day with quiet awareness, noticing how everything begins to flow. People saying yes, timing aligning, small coincidences weaving together like threads in a single design. There's a peace in the background now, a stability that doesn't depend on circumstances. Even when something unpredictable happens, it no longer feels like chaos. It feels like choreography. You recall Neville's words, "Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality." And now you understand them. Faith was never about forcing belief. It was about staying loyal to the version of you that already had the answer. You lived as that version long enough for the world to catch on, and now it mirrors you effortlessly. You notice how natural gratitude feels, not the practiced kind, but the spontaneous kind that rises without reason. You thank the smallest things, the light, the silence, the rhythm of your breath, because now you know every breath is creative power, every moment an act of manifestation. You think about your old self, the one who waited for signs, who measured progress, who lived as effect instead of cause. You don't feel pity for them, you feel compassion. That version of you was necessary. It built the hunger that led you here. Now, you move differently. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You trust silence more than noise. You understand that everything is responding not to what you say, but to what you are. As evening approaches, you look around, the same world, yet utterly transformed. Not because it changed, but because you did. You remember how it all began, that fragile moment between sleep and waking, when you first whispered, "Everything starts working for me today." You had no proof, only willingness, but willingness was enough. You take a deep breath and let the day exhale with you. You realize that resetting your reality was never about fixing the outside. It was about remembering who commands the inside. And that command, soft, consistent, faithful, became your new identity. The world is listening to you now, but not the voice that begs or hopes. It's listening to the tone of certainty that vibrates beneath your words. You smile not from achievement but from recognition. You don't need to imagine anymore. You're living the imagination. You are both dream and dreamer, both cause and effect, both creator and creation. And as the last light fades, you whisper one final time, not as affirmation, but as truth realized. Everything starts working for me today. Then you pause. No expectation, no demand, just a quiet knowing that tomorrow will rise from this very moment. Because now the world doesn't tell you who you are. You tell it, and the world listens. The world is still. The noise has faded, and what remains is the hum beneath everything, the silent pulse of being. You sit inside it now, not as a seeker, but as someone who has found what was never lost. You don't need to repeat anything. You don't need to remind yourself to believe, because belief has stopped being something you do. It has become what you are. The mind that used to chase has fallen silent. The questions that used to spin endlessly have dissolved into a single knowing. You are the origin of your experience. You are the point where reality begins. It's simple now, beautifully, painfully simple. You imagine, you feel, you become, and the world follows. All the years you spent trying to prove yourself to life, you were never being judged. You were only being mirrored. Every obstacle, every delay, every heartbreak, they weren't punishments. They were reflections of forgotten power. You look back at them now with soft eyes. There is no anger left, no regret, only gratitude. Because without them, you might never have remembered who commands the reflection. You inhale deeply. The air feels different, not just oxygen, but awareness entering your body. Every breath feels like creation, every exhale, surrender. You realize that faith is not something you hold. It's something that holds you. It catches you in the free fall between what was and what's becoming. And in that fall, you find flight. The night outside your window has its own quiet rhythm. Somewhere the world continues. People rushing, clocks ticking, stories unfolding. But here, inside this awareness, time feels irrelevant. You're not in the story anymore. You're writing it. You whisper softly to yourself, "Everything starts working for me today." And the words feel different now, not as hope, not as effort, but as memory. A sacred remembering that things have always been working for you, even when you couldn't see it. Because reality isn't waiting to be fixed. It's waiting to be felt. And the moment you feel it as complete, it becomes so. This is the reset, not of circumstance, but of consciousness. You have returned to the center, to the still point where imagination meets faith, and faith becomes fact. From here, you can begin again. Not from lack, but from fullness. Not from need, but from knowing. And when tomorrow comes, you won't wake into the old world. You'll wake into the one you're creating now. Moment by moment, word by word, state by state. You are no longer the one who hopes. You are the one who commands through quiet certainty. And that certainty ripples outward, shaping every corner of your world without you lifting a finger. The silence grows deeper, richer, almost luminous. You close your eyes, you smile. You remember this power was never borrowed. It was yours all along. So as you rest, whether in sleep or in peace or in a new beginning, carry this awareness gently. Everything starts working for you, not when you try, but when you know. Because knowing is creation, and creation is you.